She only wanted to cash a small check, holding her son's toys in her arms as a reminder of why she worked so hard. But instead of kindness, she was met with sneers, whispers, and a mocking laugh from behind the glass. In that moment, the room seemed colder, the stares sharper, like she didn't belong. What unfolded next wasn't just about money or a bank account. It was about dignity, respect, and a choice that no one saw coming. Would she stay silent or fight back? For Maya, life was a balancing act. She was a single mother, working long hours at a small grocery store just to keep food on the table and a roof over her son's head. Every paycheck mattered. Every dollar had a purpose. And though the days were exhausting, she carried a quiet pride. Because no matter how heavy the struggle, her little boy never went without love or care. On this particular morning, Maya had promised her son a small toy car he had been asking for all week. It wasn't much, just a plastic car from the discount aisle, but to him, it meant the world. She tucked it carefully into her bag before heading to the bank on her lunch break, determined to deposit her check and keep moving through the endless cycle of work, bills, and responsibility. The bank was always intimidating. The marble floors, the cold air, the sharp suits. It felt like a place designed to remind her she didn't quite fit in. But she walked in anyway, holding her head high. She clutched her bag a little tighter, the toy car inside a quiet symbol of everything she was fighting for. What Maya didn't know was that this ordinary trip to the bank would set off a chain of events she could never have imagined. Maya stood in line, the folded check warm in her hand. She shifted her bag higher on her shoulder, feeling the outline of the little toy car inside. Around her, people tapped on phones, sighed impatiently, and shuffled forward. Nothing seemed unusual until it was her turn. The teller looked up, eyes scanning Maya from head to toe. His smile was thin, almost mocking, as he glanced at the bag she carried. "You bring in your kid's toy collection to the bank?" he muttered under his breath, but loud enough for the people nearby to hear. A couple of customers smirked. Heat rushed to Maya's face. She wanted to pretend she hadn't heard, but the laughter that followed made it impossible. She slid her check across the counter. "I'd like to deposit this, please." Her voice was steady, but her hands betrayed her, clutching her bag tighter. The teller held the check up to the light, frowning as though it were suspicious. "You sure this is yours?" A lot of folks try things these days. He leaned back in his chair, smirking again. Single moms, especially. Always some kind of story. Maya's chest tightened. She could feel the stares digging into her skin. People weren't just watching anymore. They were judging, deciding who she was before she even opened her mouth. She forced herself to breathe. "Yes, it's mine. For my job." But the teller didn't move. He tapped his pen on the counter, stretching out the silence until it felt unbearable. Then he whispered, "Figures. Carrying around toys, like you don't know how to take care of yourself. Or you kid." The words cut deeper than she expected. It wasn't just an insult. It was a reminder of every stereotype, every label society tried to pin on her. And the worst part? He wanted her to react. He wanted a scene. Maya swallowed the lump in her throat. She thought of her son's smile when he saw the toy car waiting for him at home. That smile was worth more than this man's approval. But the humiliation burned. Finally, the teller shoved the check back toward her. "We'll need to hold this for a while." "Bank policy," he said, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "You understand." Her heart pounded. This was her rent money, groceries, bus fare, and he was treating it like a game. Maya froze, torn between anger and fear. If she argued, would they call security? Would she be thrown out in front of everyone? If she stayed quiet, would she lose more than just her dignity? The room felt smaller, tighter, every laugh and whisper echoing louder in her ears. She glanced at the clock, then back at the teller's smug expression. Something inside her shifted. She realized this moment wasn't just about a deposit. It was about whether she would let herself be diminished, or whether she would stand up, even if her voice shook. And with that thought, Maya made a decision that would change everything. Maya's hands trembled as she gripped the check the teller had shoved back at her. Every eye in the bank seemed to pierce her skin, waiting to see what she would do, waiting for her to break. For a moment, she almost walked away, swallowing the insult like so many times before. But then she thought of her son, waiting at home for that toy car. She thought of every sacrifice, every long shift, every moment she had fought to prove she was more than the stereotypes they threw at her. And something inside her snapped. She leaned forward, her voice steady but sharp enough to cut through the whispers. "You don't get to decide my worth. Not today. Not ever." The teller blinked, startled. The smirk vanished. Without another word, Maya pulled her debit card from her wallet and slid it across the counter. "Close my accounts. All of them. Right now." Gasps rippled through the line. People turned, whispering louder. The teller's face drained of color as he realized what was happening. This wasn't just a deposit anymore. This was a statement. You can't just," he stammered. "I can," Maya interrupted. Her voice was calm, but her hands no longer shook. "And I will." The manager, alerted by the rising tension, hurried over. "Ma'am, is there a problem?" Maya met his eyes, standing taller than she ever had before. "The problem," she said, "is thinking people like me don't belong here. Consider this my answer." The room fell silent. Even the air felt heavier. Maya gathered her things, the toy car pressing firmly against her side, as though reminding her why she had to do this. And as she turned toward the door, one question hung in the stunned silence. What happens when the people you look down on finally refuse to stay quiet? Maya walked out of that bank with her head held high, her accounts closed, and her dignity intact. To some, it might have seemed like a small act, a quiet protest that would fade into the noise of daily life. But for Maya, it was everything. She had refused to be reduced to a stereotype, refused to let humiliation define her. In that moment, she showed her son and herself that dignity is worth more than money in any account. But the truth is, Maya's story isn't just hers. It's the story of countless black women who are judged before they speak, mocked for their struggles, and doubted when they've earned every right to stand tall. It's the story of how something as simple as a bank errand can turn into a battlefield where respect and humanity are tested. And while Maya found her strength, many others are silenced every day. Too many walk away carrying wounds that never heal, wounds made by words, looks, and systems designed to remind them they don't belong. So what do we do with stories like Maya's? Do we dismiss them as isolated incidents? Or do we finally admit they reflect a deeper, harsher truth? Because the reality is clear, silence only feeds injustice. Every time someone is mocked, shamed, or denied dignity because of who they are, the question remains, how long before the world stops turning away? Maybe the better question is this: when will we decide that stories like Maya's no longer need to be told? Disclaimer: the stories shared on this channel are entirely fictional and created solely for entertainment. We believe in a world where everyone enjoys equal rights under the law and where society progresses with fairness, development, and civilization. Our aim is to share thought-provoking and meaningful stories that inspire positive change. Any resemblance to real people, events, or organizations is purely coincidental and unintentional. These stories do not reference any actual individuals, occurrences, or entities and carry no political or religious implications.